Welcome you all. I am Dr. M. Sami, working as Assistant Professor in Chemistry, Dr. N.G.P. College of Arts and Science, Coimbatore. So, in this video, consists of the following. So, what do you mean by paint and paint constituents and types of paints and its characteristics and types of pigments. So, we'll see one by one. So, generally, we are all known that paint so in our day-to-day life we are using different varieties of paint. So generally we have to know the what do you mean by paint. So what is paint? So paint is a solution or suspension of pigment, binder and the mineral solvent. So there are variety of paints shown here. So generally, we should know. So what are the ingredients added in the paint manufacturing process? So that is important, very important. So what are the ingredients? So mainly binder, vehicle, and resins. So these are the suitable ingredients added in the paint manufacturing process. So mainly, so binder or vehicle or resins are the same. So generally, what is the purpose of adding binder or vehicle or resin? So its main purpose is to understand and strongly influence such properties as glossy and durability and flexibility and toughness. So another ingredient is the solvent. So solvent is the main ingredient added into the paint manufacturing process. So mainly what are the important solvents are? So that is the oil based materials and thinner. So mainly the solvent is the thinner oil widely used in the manufacturing process. So our next one is the pigment. So pigment or filler. The what are the pigments? So without pigments there is no paint. The coloring process, that is the pigment. Generally the pigments are the granular solids incorporated in the paint to contribute color. Pigment or filler. So that is the same meaning. So next ingredient is the additives, the suitable additives. So there are variety of additives. So main purpose of adding the additives, that is the significant effect on the product. So some common examples for the additives, that is the general role of the additives are the surface tension and improve flow properties and finished appearance. So that is another important purpose, that is the control, foaming, etc. And next we are going to discuss the classification of paint. So on the generally, so paint classified under various factors, that is on the basis of base material used. So under the base materials, so there are different varieties. So that is oil paints, alkyd paint, and latex paint, and epoxy paint. So on the basis of properties, so we are using under the properties based, that is the rust inhibiting paint and primers and fire retarding paints and heat resistant paint in tumescent coatings. So these are the wide varieties of paint classification based on the properties. So our next important thing is that what is the characteristics, the main characteristics of paint. So we are taking a particular paint. So what are the salient characteristics? So that is important. So general characteristics of paint. So it should possess a good spreading power. That is the maximum area of surface should be covered by minimum quantity of the paint. So that is important. The paint should be a fairly cheap and economical. So that is important point. So another one is the paint should such as that it can be easily freely applied on the surface, and it is the mainly it is a cheap and economical. It should having the long time process. It should form a hard and durable surface, as well as the paint should not affect the health of workers during its application. So it is important thing. And another important point, that is the paint should not affected by weathering actions of the atmosphere. The paint should possess attractive and pleasing appearance. And another important thing is So when we are using the paint in the surface, the paint should form a thin film without affecting the nature. So that is important. So another important, that is requirement of a good paint. So what are the requirements? So a good paint consists of the following. So it should be a fluid influence that spread easily the product at the surface. It should possess high covering power. So important thing. So it should form a quite tough and uniform and adherent and impervious film. Its film should not get cracked on drying. So while when the suitable paint we are using a different surface, so it's not get cracked on drying. So that is the important thing. So it should protect the painted surface from corrosion effects of environment. So it is important requirement. So any paint does not affect the environment and the corrosion effect of environment. So it is the important requirement. So it should form film the color of which is quite stable to the effect of atmosphere and other agencies. So film should be a glossy in nature. So its film should be stable. So these are all some important requirements of a good paint. So another point. So another topic generally. So what are the ingredients? So in that ingredients, so role of pigments. So generally we should know what you mean by pigments. So pigments are nothing but the light absorbing colored molecules. Okay, there are different pigments are there. So different pigments absorb different wavelength of light. So we are all known that so chlorophylls are the major light absorbing pigments in plants. So this is the common point. So any kind of pigments, they absorb light energy from violet to blue light and reflect green light, so giving plants their green color. So this is the natural pigment so occurring in the all types of plants. So there are different varieties in the pigments. So pigments based on the elemental composition. So that is metal based pigments. For example, cadmium pigments. So cadmium yellow and cadmium red. So chromium pigments. What are the examples? So chrome yellow and chrome green. So on cobalt pigments, copper pigments, lead, mercury, etc. So beyond that, so there are organic and biological pigments are there. So some examples are known as carbon black, etc. So thank you.